tragic life. That is what Bobby Jones lived after age 45, and this is his story. The man who was once the most celebrated golfer on earth became trapped in a failing body. His wife watched in silence as his life became a nightmare of pain and paralysis. But here's the twist. His real greatness was not the trophies. It was the courage he showed for decades while suffering in the darkness. And if you want to support stories like this, hit the hype feature and give this video some hype. It really helps us bring these stories to the world. Bobby Jones was not just any athlete. He was the emperor of golf. In the 1920s, when sports heroes were born, Jones stood above them all. Babe Ruth swung a bat. Jack Dempsey threw punches. Red Grange ran with a football. But Bobby Jones was different. He was not just a golfer, he was a Renaissance man. He had a degree in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech. He studied English literature at Harvard. He earned a law degree from Emory University. He was a scholar, a gentleman, and a champion all at once. He was from Atlanta's upper class, but he did not act like he was better than anyone. He treated opponents with respect. He treated galleries with kindness. He treated the game with reverence. The world had never seen anything like him before. Kings wanted to meet him. Presidents invited him to the White House. But Jones remained humble and grounded, always thinking of the game first and his own fame second. Between 1923 and 1930, Jones was unstoppable. In 7 years, he won 13 major championships. When he entered a major tournament, he finished first or second nearly half the time. He traveled over 150,000 miles by train and steamship to compete. The journey alone would have broken most men, but Jones seemed to get stronger with each trip. His competitors knew they were playing for second place. The newspapers called him the Emperor. Kings and presidents wanted to meet him. He was only in his 20s, but he was already a living legend. Then came 1930. This was the year that changed everything. This was his moment to make history. Jones decided to do something no one had ever done before. He would win all 4 major golf championships in a single year. The British Amateur, the British Open, the U.S. Open, the U.S. Amateur. Winning all 4 in 1 year seemed impossible to everyone, but Jones was not like other men. The pressure was enormous. Sports writer O.B. Keeler gave this historic goal a name, the Grand Slam. Jones began to feel the weight of it in every fiber of his being. He lost up to 15 pounds during each championship from stress and exhaustion. His body was breaking down, but his will was unbreakable. On September 27, 1930, at Marion Cricket Club, Jones won the U.S. Amateur and completed the Grand Slam. He was 28 years old. America celebrated him with 2 ticker tape parades in New York City. No other person in history had ever received 2 parades. He was the most famous man in America. Newspapers called him a god. He could have continued playing and won more championships. He could have dominated the sport for another decade. But Jones walked away. He retired from golf at the peak of his powers. He wanted to practice law. He wanted to spend time with his family. He wanted to play golf just for fun with friends. He thought he was retiring to save his health. He thought stepping back from competition would allow him to live a normal life. But fate had a cruel plan. 1 year before the Grand Slam, something happened that would destroy his life. It was 1929. Jones was playing a practice round at his home course, East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. A violent thunderstorm swept across the course without warning. Thunder cracked. Lightning flashed. Jones and his friends ran to shelter. They huddled next to the clubhouse chimney. Then the lightning struck hard. The bolt hit the chimney with explosive force. Bricks shattered and fell like rain. Heavy debris crashed down on the group. Jones was struck on the head, neck, and upper back. At first, Jones seemed okay. He had bruises and soreness, maybe a mild concussion, but he did not lose consciousness. He did not become paralyzed. He recovered quickly. Within weeks, he felt fine. He went on to win the Grand Slam just 1 year later. No one knew that the lightning strike had planted a hidden bomb inside his spine. No one knew that his ultimate fate had already been sealed. Medical science now understands what happened that day. The lightning strike caused internal damage to his spinal cord. The trauma created a small bleed inside the cord or caused swelling around it. This damage blocked the flow of cerebrospinal fluid. This fluid bathes the spinal cord and flows with every heartbeat. When blocked by scar tissue, pressure built up inside the cord like a balloon filling with air. Over years, this pressure created a fluid-filled cavity called a syrinx. For 20 years, this invisible enemy ate away at him, microscopically. For nearly 2 decades, Jones lived a normal life. He co-founded Augusta National Golf Club and created the Masters Tournament. During World War II, he served as an intelligence officer in the U.S. Army and landed in Normandy the day after D-Day. That he survived the horrors of war shows how strong his body still was, even though his spinal cord was slowly being destroyed. Then in 1948, everything changed. Jones was 46 years old. He began to notice strange sensations in his hands. His fingers tingled. They felt numb. This terrified him. His entire life had been defined by his hands. His grip on the putter was perfect and precise. His swing was like poetry itself. His hands had made him a god. Now they were betraying him. He noticed that he dragged his legs slightly when he walked. His coordination, the one thing that had never failed him, was faltering. He felt like a ghost of himself. Something was very wrong, and deep down he knew it. Jones tried to hide it. He came to the Masters that year to play. The gallery watched in shock. He could barely walk the hilly terrain of Augusta National. He played with a cane, leaning on it between shots. He struggled to grip the club. His hands would not obey his brain. The Emperor was falling in front of the world. He finished the tournament, but everyone could see that something was deeply, profoundly wrong. Later that year, he played his last round of golf at East Lake, his home course. The man who had conquered the world could play no longer. Jones went to doctors. They had no MRI machines in 1950. They had no way to see inside his spinal cord without cutting him open or using dangerous procedures. So they performed a myelogram. This procedure was torture. A large needle was pushed into his spinal canal. Doctors withdrew spinal fluid and injected an oil-based dye called Pantopac. Then they strapped Jones to a table. They tilted the table 90 degrees or more, flipping him upside down so the heavy dye would flow to his neck. They took x-rays as the dye outlined his spinal cord. The process caused severe headaches and nausea. It made his pain worse. Patients of that era said the myelogram was torture, and they were right. In 1950, the x-rays showed the truth. Doctors saw the syrinx, a hollow cavity destroying the center of his spinal cord. The prognosis was devastating. There was no cure. Surgery was primitive and dangerous. It could cause instant paralysis or death. Jones was told that his condition would get worse and worse. It would be painful. It would be permanent. He had maybe 20 years left, and they would be years of agony. The pain that followed was not normal pain. It was not a sore muscle or a broken bone. It was central neuropathic pain, a special kind of torture that the nervous system creates when it malfunctions. The syrinx had damaged the nerves that carry pain signals. These nerves began to misfire. They sent false signals of burning heat with no actual fire. Jones described it as liquid fire. That phrase appears again and again in descriptions of his suffering. Liquid fire, burning without heat, agony without cause. The pain was constant. It never stopped. It could be triggered by the lightest touch, a change in temperature, or emotional stress. The cruelest part was where the pain lived. Syringomyelia creates a cape-like distribution of pain across the shoulders and upper arms. For a golfer, this was the worst possible place. The muscles that powered his swing, that made him a god, were now the source of torture. Every nerve ending in his shoulders and arms was on fire. Imagine feeling burned alive every second with no relief. That was Bobby Jones's reality. Living with this kind of pain destroys the mind and spirit. It causes sleep loss, depression, and irritability. Most people would have given up, but Jones did not. He maintained his composure. He kept his sense of humor. He refused to let the pain define him. This refusal was the truest measure of his inner strength. Through all of this, one person stood beside him, his wife, Mary Malone Jones. Mary had married Bobby in 1924. For the first half of their marriage, she was the golf widow. Bobby was away competing, traveling the world, being celebrated by kings and presidents. Mary managed the home and raised the children. She lived in his shadow, but in the second half of their marriage, everything reversed. Mary became his nurse, his guardian, his emotional anchor. Jones was a man of the Old South. He valued stoicism and privacy above all else. He did not want the world to pity him. He did not want people to know the extent of his suffering. He did not want them to know about the incontinence, the inability to feed himself, the spasms of pain that left him gasping. Mary became the guardian of his dignity. She managed the household so that Bobby could maintain his image as the elder statesman, not as an invalid. She fielded the letters and managed the visitors. When he appeared in public, he looked dignified and strong, even though inside the house he was falling apart. The physical demands on Mary were immense. As Jones progressed from a cane to a walker and then to a wheelchair, the work of caring for him became grueling. Transferring a paralyzed adult is exhausting work requiring strength and endless patience. But beyond the physical labor was emotional labor. Mary witnessed the liquid fire attacks. She watched the man she loved suffer with no way to help except to hold his hand. She had to be strong when he could not be. After Bobby died, letters poured into Mary from friends, family, and community members. These letters, kept in the Atlanta History Center, reveal something important. People recognized Mary's deep sacrifice. They understood that she had made it possible for Bobby to survive for 21 years with a disease that should have killed him much faster. They knew that without her, the king would not have survived in the cage. She was the silent hero of his story, just as she had been the quiet supporter during his glory. The disease followed a relentless path. From 1948 to 1950, Jones lost fine motor skills in his hands. The hands that gripped his putter with a perfect precision became clumsy claws. From 1950 to 1955, he lost the ability to stand. He went from a cane to a walker. From 1956 to 1965, he became confined to a wheelchair. The paralysis climbed his spine. From 1966 to 1971, he was bedridden. The muscles wasted away to nothing. In his prime, Jones was a robust athlete. He stood 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighed 165 pounds of solid muscle. But syringomyelia destroys the motor neurons that feed the muscles. As the years passed, the muscles died. Jones wasted away. He became skeletal. His limbs grew thin and useless. His frame became gaunt. The king was physically reduced to a fragile shell, but his eyes remained sharp. His mind remained sharp. The disease did not touch his brain. The doctors had warned that the syrinx would slowly destroy his body, but they could not have predicted how his will would remain unbroken. His spirit would continue to burn bright, even as his physical form crumbled away. This contradiction defined the final chapters of his life more than anything else. In 1960, while severely disabled, Jones published a book called Golf is My Game. It was a memoir and an instructional book about golf. He could barely move his hands, but he dictated the words or typed with great difficulty. The book poured out of him because his mind was still alive and sharp and full of ideas. He continued to influence the Masters tournament. He suggested changes to the course. He made the guest list for the tournament. He presided over the Champions Dinner. Every year from his retirement until 1968, he endured the agony of travel to sit on the veranda of the clubhouse at Augusta National. Players would see him there in his wheelchair, wasted but smiling. Many players said that seeing Bobby Jones in that chair, still strong in spirit, was one of the most inspiring moments of their lives. His famous saying became his personal battle cry. In life, as in golf, you play the ball where you find it. This was not just a golf saying, it was his personal philosophy for his fight against his own body. The ball he found was syringomyelia. The lie was horrible, but he played it with integrity and patience and courage. He played it the same way he had played the bunkers of St. Andrews and the rough at Winged Foot. He played it as a champion plays every shot, no matter how bad the situation. As the 1970s began, Jones approached his final days. The physical suffering reached its worst point. Morphine helped with the pain, but it also clouded his mind. Yet in his last days, something changed. Family accounts shared by his grandson, Dr. Robert Tyre Jones IV, describe a final spiritual awakening. 3 days before his death, amid the fog of pain and medication, Jones experienced a moment of profound clarity and conversion. He communicated to his family a sense of peace. He felt spiritual acceptance. He seemed to have finally transcended the cage of his body. He found freedom and faith that his body could no longer provide. On December 18, 1971, Bobby Jones died. He was 69 years old. The cause was complications from syringomyelia and cardiovascular disease. The liquid fire was extinguished. The horrible life was over. He was buried in Oakland Cemetery in Atlanta alongside his family. Bobby Jones's suffering was not without meaning. His struggle brought attention to a rare and misunderstood disease called syringomyelia. Today, the Bobby Jones Chiari and Syringomyelia Foundation carries his name. The foundation funds research, education, and support for people suffering from the same disease that destroyed his body. His family, including Dr. Bob Jones IV, continues this work. They see it as the final chapter of his legacy, a grand slam for humanity. A victory greater than any trophy won on grass. The research confirms that after age 45, Bobby Jones lived a horrible life by any physical measure. He was stripped of his athleticism, his mobility, his independence, and his dignity. He endured liquid fire for decades. The man who once moved like a panther was reduced to a bedridden skeleton. The emperor was trapped in a cage. But here is the essential truth. He refused to be defined by the horror. Supported by the silent heroic strength of Mary Malone Jones, he converted his suffering into moral grandeur. While his body was imprisoned, his spirit remained forever free. In that triumph, the king proved that true greatness is not measured in trophies or championships. True greatness is measured in courage when all else has been taken away. Bobby Jones played the bad lie of Syringomyelia with the same integrity and patience and courage that he played every shot of his legendary career. And in doing so, he won a victory far greater than any Grand Slam. He won the ultimate victory of the human spirit over biological ruin.